Have you ever wondered why ancient Egypt, a cradle of civilization nestled in Africa, is often shrouded in controversy regarding its racial and cultural heritage? Martin Bernal, in his groundbreaking work, Black Athena, delves into this puzzle. He presents an intriguing argument. If it were proven that certain races were inherently incapable of fostering civilization, how then do we reconcile the existence of advanced ancient Egyptian society in Africa? Historians, particularly in the 19th and 20th centuries, navigated this dilemma through three primary approaches. Some outright denied the African roots of the Egyptians, while others refused to acknowledge ancient Egypt as a beacon of true civilization. A third group rejected both Egyptian blackness and their civilizational achievements, preferring a double layer of denial to maintain their biased narratives. Sheikh Anta Diop, speaking at the Niamey Conference in 1984, further exposed this prejudice. He pointed out a persistent trend in textbooks and scholarly discourse. A deliberate attempt to minimize or swallow Egypt's contributions, often inflating the significance of Mesopotamia to overshadow Egypt's historical role. Diop raised a critical question. If Egypt were truly a white civilization, as some claim, why the need for such systematic underrepresentation? This issue is not just a historical curiosity, but a significant aspect of how history has been manipulated. This video delves into the fabrication of Mesopotamian history as a means to downplay Egypt's pivotal role in human civilization. It's a journey through time, unearthing biases and revealing how history, often thought to be set in stone, is actually malleable, shaped by the hands of those who record it. Why does ancient Egyptian civilization often receive less recognition than it deserves? The answer lies in a deep-rooted historical bias. During the era of slavery and colonization, Western nations prospered immensely from the slave trade. To justify this morally reprehensible practice, they propagated the myth of the African as a savage and subhuman entity, undeserving of freedom or respect. This period also marked the rise of white Europeans on the global stage. To cement their newfound dominance, history was rewritten to exclude the significant contributions of black civilizations, particularly those in Africa. This manipulation served to perpetuate the ideology of white supremacy, a notion that unfortunately persists in some forms to this day. Three major steps were taken to minimize the impact of ancient Egypt. One, efforts were made to remove any association of this civilization with black Africans, rewriting history to obscure their true heritage. Two, Egypt was conceptually moved from its geographical roots in Africa to a more eastern location. This was further reinforced by terms like Black Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. Three, the accomplishments of ancient Egypt were often credited to civilizations perceived as white or light-skinned, such as those in Mesopotamia, Greece, and Arabia. By doing so, the narrative shifted to portray these cultures, particularly Mesopotamia with its Sumerian culture, as the true cradles of civilization, rather than Egypt. This historical bias not only misrepresents the true lineage of human achievement, but also continues to influence perceptions of African civilizations in contemporary discourse. Have you ever wondered how Mesopotamia, particularly Sumer, came to be known as the birthplace of civilization? This idea, popularized in the 19th and early 20th centuries, ties closely to the Western world's Christian heritage. Christianity, before its adoption by the Roman Empire, originated in West Asia among Semitic peoples, including influential figures like Saul of Tarsus, St. Paul. These groups trace their origins back to Mesopotamia, aligning the cradle of civilization with the roots of the Judeo-Christian tradition that was predominant in the West. Consequently, many widely read books and scholars have highlighted Sumer as the origin of significant developments, the birthplace of writing. Sumer is often credited with the invention of writing, the emergence of cities and organized states, The region is also recognized for the rise of the first cities and a structured state system. However, this narrative has been challenged by discoveries and historical assertions from other parts of the world, notably Africa. Ancient Greek authors like Diodorus of Sicily and the Phoenicians attributed the invention of writing to a Nubio-Egyptian origin. This claim finds support in the work of Professor Gunther Dreyer, who uncovered in Abydos, southern Egypt, the earliest known writing, dating back to at least 3400 BCE. This predates any comparable findings in Sumer. Professor Dreyer's research, as reported by a Reuters news dispatch in December 1998, further contends that Egyptian writing was more advanced than that of Mesopotamia during the same period, a time when the Sumerians had not yet settled in the region. This revelation invites a re-examination of the widely accepted narrative and suggests a more complex history of civilization's origins than previously thought. Sheikh Anta Diop, a renowned historian, challenges the conventional view of Mesopotamia as the cradle of civilization. In his book, Nations Nègres et Culture, he points out that the earliest cuneiform tablets from Mesopotamia primarily contain merchant records like receipts and invoices, rather than complex writing. This lack of detailed writing means these tablets don't provide insights into the political, social, or spiritual organization of ancient Sumer. Diop draws attention to the fact that these tablets were essentially used for calculations, similar to earlier mathematical artifacts found in Africa. Notable examples include the Lebombo bone from Eswatini, formerly Swaziland, dated around 37,000 years old, and the 25,000-year-old Ishango bone from the Democratic Republic of Congo. These African artifacts predate Mesopotamian developments, suggesting that Africa may have been the birthplace of mathematical concepts. Turning to the evolution of written language and state formation, Diop highlights Africa's significant contributions. He cites the Shemsu Horo, followers of Horus, the earliest known pharaohs from Nubia, who date back to around 3500 to 3800 BCE. This predates the emergence of the Sumerians in Mesopotamia. Alexandre Moret, another historian, supports this timeline, noting that Sumerians appeared around 4000 BCE, by which time Egypt was already nearing its historical period of civilization. The Shemsu Horo was succeeded by Nare Mari, Narmer, recognized as both the last of the Shemsu Horo and the first pharaoh to unite all of Egypt. This unification, completed around 3200 BCE, with the Semitawi Rite in the Nile Valley, marked a significant milestone in the development of the pharaonic state. Diop's research suggests that Africa, rather than Mesopotamia, should be considered the true pioneer in both writing and state formation, reshaping our understanding of the early history of human civilization. When Nare Mari, also known as King Narmer, ascended to power in ancient Egypt, the pharaonic civilization was already a well-established, advanced society. It boasted structured political and administrative systems, a thriving economy, developed cities with stone architecture, provinces, a sophisticated writing system, and numerous informative texts. In contrast, what was happening in Mesopotamia around 3200 BCE, the period when Egypt was flourishing under Nare Mari? Sheikh Anta Diop, in his book Nations Nègres et Culture, points out that Mesopotamia's archaeological evidence from this era is less impressive. Buildings were primarily made of mud bricks, which often disintegrated in the rain, turning back into mud. This contrasts sharply with Egypt's durable stone constructions. Diop further notes that instead of a unified kingdom like Egypt, Mesopotamia had only a collection of cities like Susa, Uruk, Lagash, Mari, and Sumer. Many of these cities are known only through tombs, often labeled as royal, without concrete evidence to support such claims. Thus, Diop argues that Sumer cannot be considered the origin of writing or the birthplace of advanced state structures, challenging the conventional view that it was the cradle of civilization. He also suggests that the commonly accepted timeline for the beginning of Mesopotamian history is not based on solid evidence, but rather on a forced alignment with the Egyptian chronology. According to Diop, Historical facts known about this region could fit into a much shorter time frame than currently believed, indicating a possible overestimation of Mesopotamia's role in the early history of civilization. A map titled The Oldest Civilizations reveals a striking discrepancy in how the histories of Mesopotamia and Egypt are portrayed. It shows Mesopotamia's history as starting around 3200 BCE, while Egypt's timeline begins later, around 2850 BCE. This representation overlooks significant early Egyptian history, including the reign of the Shemsu Horo and the earliest dynasties, starting from Nare-Mari, also known as King Narmer. This map also illustrates the theory of the Fertile Crescent, which suggests that civilization originated in a region in the Middle East, often referred to as the East. This theory, however, seems to diminish Egypt's role in ancient history by merging it into a broader, predominantly white and Semitic civilizational space. This portrayal undermines the unique and unparalleled contributions of ancient Egypt compared to other West Asian civilizations of that era. The map, therefore, raises questions about the accuracy and fairness of historical representations, particularly regarding the origins and development of ancient civilizations. It suggests a possible bias in favor of Mesopotamia and a tendency to underplay the significance of Egypt's early history. Egypt is not located in the East, nor is there a fertile crescent that marks the beginning of civilization. Contrary to some historical narratives, there aren't any cultures in West Asia that were equally advanced or earlier than those in Egypt. In reality, the roots of civilization can be traced back solely to the Egyptian-Nubian pharaonic civilization in Africa. This is the true cradle of early human advancement.